Alrighty, y'all, we are back. This is lesson 3, Crammed and Spaced Warp. And this is the Epically Creative Weaving course, module 3B. And I'm Amy D. McKnight. In this lesson, you will learn what a crammed and spaced warp is, how to warp a crammed and spaced warp, and some ideas for how to weave your warp. What, pray tell, is a crammed and spaced warp? Well, I shall tell you. A crammed and spaced warp is a way of placing the warp threads unevenly in the heddle to create visually exciting cloth. As the name suggests, there are several areas of the heddle that have multiple threads in the holes and slots, while other areas have few to none. I usually do this in a solid color, but you can feel free to mix it with a mixed warp as mentioned in the last video. How to warp a crammed and spaced warp. So you want to start out by deciding on the length you want your finished piece of cloth. And then, of course, measure that length. We're going to do pretty much the same thing we're going to do all the time. And mark your heddle. I'm repeating because repetition deepens the impression for those of you who are watching straight through and for those who this might be the first video that they see. All right, so you're going to warp your loom as usual and wind on. The magic will happen when we thread the slots and holes at the end. This was the warp that I used from modules 1, lesson 1 through modules 3A in a 12 dent heddle. Figured I'd tell you that so you know if you warped it, then you can just use the same thing. For those of you who've watched all the way through and want to watch everything before you do get started, that's a cheat note. All right, so you're going to move the threads around so that there are areas where there are double threads in the slots or holes and regular threading or empty spaces. You can do this at random or you can do this at even intervals. It is totally up to you. When you finish, tie on using your preferred method and begin to weave. Now, here are some ideas for weaving a crammed and spaced warp. You can weave the warp as you normally would. That is, you can weave plain weave to accentuate the warp. There will be areas that are going to be closer together than others, and that is the beauty of this technique. Or you can add elements and space, cram into your crammed and spaced warp. You can put multiple threads in a pick. You can, like we learned in, I think that was in module 1, don't remember which lesson. You can create spaces between the rows of picks. Now, the type of fiber you use will determine the results of the techniques that you try in the weft. You will find an over-my-shoulder video of me warping this crammed and spaced warp after this video, and it, of course, will be labeled, wait for it, Crammed and Spaced Warps. Yes. All right, so in this lesson, you learned what a crammed and spaced warp is, how to warp a crammed and spaced warp, and some ideas for how to weave your warp. Take action now. Weave along with me or with the video as I demonstrate how to warp a crammed and spaced warp. Go ahead and download and print out the Planning in the Warp game board. Fill it out as you go. There's a link in the description below this video. And, if you want to get social with it, hashtag Creative Weaving Warp. Yes. Of course, I want to invite you to join my weaving community, www.myweavingcommunity.com/join. It may or may not be open at this moment, but if it's not, get on the wait list so you'll be the first to know when I open the doors. Alrighty, y'all, I want to thank you so much for watching this video. Please give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and share this video. It's going to help some other rigid heddle weaver. In the next lesson, you're going to learn what a clasped warp is and how to warp a clasped warp and some ideas for weaving a clasped warp. That's going to be fun. All right, y'all. I'll see you in that next video.